Tulsi Gabbard, she is good and right and true and bold. And she just canceled the Obama legacy, all of it last week. John Brennan is evil, corrupt, dishonest. And so are all of his henchmen in the White House and the guy he worked for, Barack Obama. You know, it is amazing what they did, and that, forget the dominant media, even conservative media, they don't want to do the work, right? The Central Intelligence Agency, under his leadership, his corrupt leadership, they distorted intelligence in such a way as to delegitimize, they tried to, President Trump's administration. They tried to sabotage the United States of America with what they put into the intelligence and what they kept out of the intelligence regarding that whole hoax about Russia. Here is Brennan in the Oval Office with Obama, maybe at this moment. They're scheming away because the worst thing ever happened, right? Hillary lost and Donald Trump won, and that was unforgivable. So they came out with one great big huge lie. This is a lie, folks, that Putin wanted Trump to win the 2016 election and helped him do it. Putin wanted Trump to win the 2016 election and helped him do it. That is a total lie. Yet that is what the intelligence community officially told everyone. The legislators, the executive branch, law enforcement, local, state, federal, the media, judges, everybody, that Putin wanted Trump to win the 2016 election. And they put that under their letterhead. And the problem there is it is not true. Now, this report, and a lot of others like them, too many people are saying, oh, there's nothing new here. No, that's all established. We all know that there was Russian interference. That's not what they're talking about. And by the way, the interference was a joke. A couple of $100,000 of ads and Facebook. There were some key leaks that did happen and did not happen that benefited Hillary Clinton. But the idea that there's nothing new in this document is offensive. And those who just say, oh, well, you know, we already reported that. No, you didn't, actually. No, you didn't. And what's wrong with reemphasizing things, even if you think you did? Nope, we don't have to do that work because you'd rather be on Twitter or something like that because it's more fun than reading this stuff. And I'll admit, it's not that much fun to read. It's not. You got to boil it down, and these bureaucrats have a way of covering their tracks, and some of this stuff is hard to decipher, but here are some conclusions, all right? My conclusions and some quotes from the report itself. Ask yourself this. Why did the Russians leak damaging Hillary Clinton material? Why did they do that? Was it to help Donald Trump? No, the intelligence says that is actually not the case. Here's part of it. Because they could. Because they had the capacity. Hillary Clinton had been in politics for decades, and the Russians had a lot of dirt on her. Now, folks, Donald Trump had a reality show and had a thriving business and had a lot of other concerns, but he was a private citizen. The Russians were not keeping close track of him because he wasn't in politics. And in 2013, 2012, he wasn't even on a list of likely presidential contenders. Yeah, he liked to stir the pot, but they did not see him as a presidential candidate. They leaked on Hillary because they had a lot of damning stuff, but they didn't leak everything that they could have. The Russians assumed, like everyone else, that Hillary would win, and they wanted to undermine her administration. Folks, this is in the intelligence, the actual intelligence. Now we see everything, and we see what they cherry-picked to turn, they tried to, the whole country against President Trump, and certainly the deep state. The Russians leaked emails harmful to Trump's reputation. Emails from Colin Powell that said Trump was a national disgrace and a racist. Now, stay on this thing for a second. The Russians, did you know this? They leaked all kinds of stuff that was harmful to President Trump's reputation. That happened. And that undermines this whole notion that Putin wanted Trump to win and was doing everything he could for Trump to win. This email they uncovered and they leaked it. The Russians did to this DC Leaks website. Everybody knows it. Well, everybody in the CIA, but they didn't tell anybody else. They deliberately try to confuse the issue. The Russians did not leak everything they could have on Hillary. They had very damning information on her health, but they chose to not leak and publish. And what was that? What was that information? Go ahead, please. The Russians had evidence that Clinton was suffering from intensified psycho-emotional problems, including uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness. And you know, by the way, they had her on all kinds of tranquilizers. Now, the Russians had this information. If they really wanted Trump to win, how about leaking this in October? Instead of John Podesta saying whatever John Podesta said, I don't think those emails were all that, actually. Hillary Clinton said one thing to Goldman Sachs in private and another thing to Goldman Sachs or outside of Goldman Sachs. It's not the stuff of, it's not that dramatic. This is dramatic. And might have, it were released, given President Trump, I don't know, a couple of million more votes, but the Russians didn't do it. What else? This is from the report itself, okay? Now, this is the bureaucratic speak, but it's important. It is difficult to justify the CIA judgment that Putin aspired to help Trump win by discrediting Secretary Clinton, given that in the closing weeks of the campaign, when such devastating leaks could have been decisive, President Putin elected not to inject this material into the campaign. This is incredibly important stuff. And what the new information released by Tulsi Gabbard that goes to the Oversight, Investigation, and Referral back in September of 2020. The key intelligence people in the Obama White House, Brennan, Clapper, they knew all this stuff. You know, like they cherry-picked intelligence in the Iraq War? Well, they cherry-picked intelligence to make Trump look bad. The CIA ignored data that showed Putin did not care who won, or was at least undecided about the election. And by the way, that is my picture down there because some of this, quite frankly, is my analysis based on this data. You know, some of this stuff, I think they write it in the way they do so that nobody will ever be able to pick it up and decipher it and do all this stuff because it is a bit of a pain in the neck. At least or at best, he was undecided. Back to the report itself. At a minimum, the CIA should have identified the contrary evidence and addressed it. By not including this significant intelligence, the CIA violated their own directives that analysis should be informed by all relevant information. Relevant information like, you know, Steele was getting paid for the intelligence, getting paid by the FBI, getting paid by Hillary Clinton, yet the FBI treated it like it was a legit product. And there are good people at the CIA who knew it wasn't. They fought. This shouldn't be in any document that's going to the President of the United States, who ordered this stuff, by the way. He wanted to see it. He wanted to see it presented in this fashion. Now, is there smoking gun evidence conclusively that says that? Well, there's a hell of a lot of circumstantial evidence about Obama here. The timing, and people are saying left and right that he ordered this new review. If he ordered it, it's a fair takeaway that he was familiar with the conclusion. He rushed it. So this is a total lie. Remember, Putin wanted Trump to win the 2016 election and helped him do it. That is a total lie. Certainly did catch on, though, didn't it? It certainly did.
Of course, Russia wants Trump to win because he'll be a puppet for them. He has demonstrated nothing to the contrary.
Russia wanted Trump to become the president of the United States. That we do know.
Vladimir Putin wanted Trump to win.
Peskov made no secret that Vladimir Putin preferred Donald Trump to Hillary Clinton.
Do you buy the argument from some that Putin wants Trump in the White House?
Absolutely. I could hear Russian propaganda machine supporting Trump 24/7.
The Central Intelligence Agency wanted Hillary Clinton in the White House, and they didn't want President Trump there. And they're the ones who are working 24/7. Barack Obama, this information released last week, put out what we call a non-denial denial, what I call these bizarre allegations are ridiculous and we could attempt at distraction. Okay, that's not a denial, by the way, but okay. Nothing in the document last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. Folks, that's not, he's denying something he's not accused of. All right, we already know about the $100,000 Facebook ads and the leaks and the overall minor influence campaign on the election. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about your people and you actually creating a document that ignored intelligence that would have exonerated or at least have been exculpatory for President Trump and this whole notion that the Russians wanted him and nobody else. You created that thing. You did. Next, the denial is fascinating. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee led by then Chairman Marco Rubio. Yeah, Russia spent some money on Facebook ads, and there were leaks. The whole thing here, we're not bringing that up. He doesn't respect us. And quite frankly, given the way things are in the dominant media and how high people are, you can actually say this in front of 300 million people and get away with it. And the swamp is going to defend it. Well, they shouldn't. Yeah, these guys. CIA, all the other agencies, what in the hell are they doing? I mean, how about this? All these years after Iraq and no weapons of mass destruction, they're still cooking the books at the Central Intelligence Agency. And the one man, really, nobody of this stature has ever called out the intelligence community. And by this stature, I mean a president. A president. Nixon did it when he was out of office. He wanted to do it while he was in office. They rewarded him with his curiosity with the Watergate scandal. This is something that they would never forgive President Trump for saying out loud, beating Hillary Clinton and embarrassing the intelligence agencies.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Now, you can take it any way you want, and it took Jeb Bush, if you remember at the beginning of his announcement, when he announced for president, it took him 5 days. He went back. It was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It took him 5 days before his people told him what to say, and he ultimately said it was a mistake. The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
You can't argue with it. So, and they couldn't argue with it. The intelligence, no. So they could, what are they going to do? They're going to sabotage him. And they're going to have hurt feelings. And they're going to use their hurt feelings and they're going to take it out on the entire country. And in a rare moment of honesty from Chuck Schumer, he said it out loud. The intelligence community sabotaged President Trump.
He's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them.
The way you talked about us. So you're going to sabotage his administration. That's what they did. You know, I still got a chip on my shoulder, quite frankly, with the intelligence community and Democrats who voted for that war and Republicans, too. The Iraq War. No weapons of mass destruction in that one. Oops. Talk about an oops. And they don't like the way they're talked about, huh? So Tulsi Gabbard did an amazing thing, and she's doing an amazing thing, making these documents available. Lazy reporters not bothering to do the work, to go through them, to see the new information that is there. And you think, oh, I knew that 4 years ago. Did you? Well, did your audience? How dare you guys? And how dare the National Review? Talk about rhinos. Talk about establishment. This is what they put out over the weekend. Russiagate revisited. All right. Tell us what you got here there, William F. Buckley and whoever the hell's running it now. I used to like Bill Buckley. All of this has been well known for 8 years, even though Gabbard presents it as a shocking revelation. Wrong.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.